An interesting sidebar, but I think very meaningful for the town, is that a gentleman who specializes in antiques in the area, Pat Harrison, some of you may know him, contacted me last week and said that he had contacts with Black Dog Salvage and was interested in trying to get them to come look at the yard. We'd actually contacted Black Dog Salvage several months ago, hoping they'd be interested in some of the materials, and they were not interested at that time in coming. We sent pictures and they still were not interested. Well, Pat must know how to twist an arm, because last Friday Mike Whiteside showed up along with Pat to take a look. I met him out there. He said he was very interested. He would pitch the idea to HGTV, which he has now done as of this morning, and they want to shoot some film there either next week or the week after.
That'd be a multi-million-dollar opportunity for advertising.
Lots of publicity for the town, that's
Absolutely.
for sure. He also has identified 11 different pieces, some of them small, some of them pretty big, that they want to salvage from the yard itself. And so Earl is setting those aside or not working in those areas until they return for the filming and the salvaging of those items. So a lot has been happening, a lot of moving parts. It's not the most desirable way to approach this, but I'm convinced that we are going to be able to work with Mr. Houff and get the buildings down that he needs to have down in time for him to get his effort done. As I think you all know, he's also been very accommodating in talking to the Historical Society about the turntable and when it needs to be moved. He's a gentleman who's willing to work with you, but he's got a deadline to meet. I think it's important for me to say that, going back to my statement, we started working with a company that brought Mr. Houff to the table in March of last year. We have had no one come forward in that period of time to offer the town any funds for the purchase of that building other than Mr. Houff. Mr. Houff came initially very interested in purchasing. When he realized that it was in fact a site that was deemed a brownfield site and is part of the state registry, he met with the Department of Environmental Quality. They are very eager for him to use this site, but they suggested, in order to avoid any future liability issues, that he should have the town go through a phase 1, phase 2 environmental assessment. I think the council's aware, it's been a matter of public record, that we applied for a grant and received it for $50,000. We are doing those assessments, and once those assessments are complete, it's our understanding Mr. Houff will be given some form of a comfort letter that will allow him to proceed with the actual purchase. It is his desire to purchase. In fact, the lease purchase agreement, as you all know, is written in a way that actually encourages him to purchase as soon as possible. In the period of time since March of last year, I've only had one individual call and inquire about the property, never made any offer, just ask if it was true that we were interested in selling the property. I told the individual who called at that time, and I believe I shared that with the council, that we were in serious negotiations with an individual and we felt we needed to work through and with that individual. If that fell through, we'd be happy to get back and talk with them. But I think you could not find a finer gentleman in Mr. Houff in terms of his willingness to work with us and stay with us as we've gone through this process. So I want you all to know where we are and what our next steps are, and I'm confident that we'll get it done.
My biggest question is the stats. How are we going to get that down?
Well, we probably, as a group of town employees, are not going to bring it down. Yeah. What we've been told by every individual that we've talked to is that the building, my words, encases the smokestack, has to come down first. And so that's what we're going to be doing with the rental equipment and with equipment that we already have, which means that there will be very easy access to the smokestack. We actually have made contact with two companies to say, in effect, if we remove the building around it, what would it cost to bring the smokestack down?
That's the most dangerous thing over, I think.
Yes.
Well, would the crane that they're attempting to remove the
tall buildings?
no, the
Round table.
circle,
Oh, the turntable?
yeah, the turntable.
Yeah.
Is it tall enough to,
I don't
Did
think
you-
that particular piece of equipment that he's planning on using, but that is the company, one of the companies that we are working with to try to get an estimate on just the turntable. In fact, when the gentleman came to look at the turntable, he's from a company that's located in Stanton. He really wasn't aware of what else was on the property, but expressed a lot of interest in it, said that if his father was alive, and evidently he inherited this company or worked with his father, that his father would be right there doing it all. And lovingly removing the mortar from bricks and everything, because he just enjoyed doing that kind of thing. But he said that, he might be interested in doing it, and some of that interest may have to do with whether or not he gets the contract for the work for the turntable. We've still heard nothing about the turntable.
and that's supposed to be done by the 20th, wasn't it?
That's what the attorney had said in correspondence with Dave Davis. But Dave has not heard from that attorney in, I guess, 2 weeks now. And you may recall that Rob Catlin last week mentioned that the attorney had left his office and gone to one of the northern states to be a grandfather. But we have heard nothing, but that's what the attorney's letter said. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I guess 2 more days to make this move.
But we will continue, even as we are tearing down the buildings and using any of the proceeds from the metal and everything to fund our expenses, and we've been very careful to set that aside. We will continue to try to identify individuals who can bring that smokestack down. One of the people that we're working with to try to get an estimate, we know for a fact has done similar work and brought these smokestack down in a very, how to say it, kind of professional way in terms of the way it actually falls to the ground. Not necessarily an implosion, but maybe something similar to that.
I have a couple of questions. Are the employees safe working near the smokestack?
They are keeping their distance at this point, and what they're doing is removing the building around it. And it's a hard hat area, and no one is allowed down there without now Mr. Houff's permission, because it's now under his lease. Although obviously he has agreed that our employees, can be there, and that we can bring anybody in to take a look at it, in order to assist in the removal.
And you mentioned that one of the equipment we're going to buy is a hammer.
We're going to rent one.
I mean, yeah, we're going
Yes,
to rent it,
uh-huh.
but that's going to cause the ground to move
Mhm.
or vibrate. Is that going to affect the smokestack?
It may, because the smokestack has been losing bricks for a long
Yeah.
time now.
Well, I surely hope they take that into consideration. Strong consideration.
I think we are very mindful of what's going on there.
What?
When you get 2,000 bricks over your head, I hope you two are mindful.
Yeah, but when you're pounding with the ground with that thing, the ripple effect is.
Well,
off.
you may remember that we talked about, when again, the council wasn't sure if they wanted the smokestack to come down or not. We talked about the fact that just the equipment moving around and taking the buildings down might in fact create some of the very condition that you're talking about. But we're not going to do anything that endangers anyone. On the other hand, I think the employees that we have that are working out there are very comfortable with the equipment, know the equipment's limitations, and that's why we're ready to go to this next stage with equipment that can reach to higher levels without getting them too close to the building.
Well, the ripple effect in dealing with Houff, I know that this has to come out of there, but I want it to come out as safe as possible.
Absolutely.
And I know you do also. I just, I don't want anybody to get hit. I mean, your head's covered, but there's a lot of parts of your body that are not covered. And those things are heavy.
How many public works employees are working over there? It's not everybody, is it? So it's the people that have had some experience?
Yes, the people that have been, those using our equipment on a regular basis. And truthfully, they enjoy doing it, so it's not something that they begrudgingly are doing. Now, we do have some employees that are then after some of the debris has come down, they're then putting it in trucks and hauling it out, that kind of thing there. But I would say at any one time, there are no more than 4 or 5 that are working there. And
Where
Earl
is-
is out there most of the time observing. Mike Jack, who's our senior employee, is out there virtually all the time, and Mike is one of the equipment operators. And Mike is very comfortable with that, and he's very knowledgeable about the safety issue too. He's not going to endanger those men.
Where are we putting the debris?
Well,
From
it
the
depends on,
smokestack? Are we
depends
gonna,
on,
are we gonna, I guess some people in town have asked me, is that accessible to us?
no.
Okay.
Because-
Well, that answer.
I don't think we should allow people to go down there.
No, not there,
Yeah.
but where you're putting the debris.
Well, we haven't removed, for example, bricks at this point. The only thing they've been taking out on trucks has been the recyclable products, which is how we've made the revenue that will fund the expense of these pieces of equipment.
And this company that wants to take stuff off-site, the artifacts that they were looking at, are they gonna leave the town? Because isn't that one of the requirements we had on the other guy that couldn't leave town?
What about, they're gonna leave the town?
Well, Black Dog Salvage will be taking them,
They will stay here.
but they will also be paying
Okay.
the town for those items, whereas I believe your other request was just an outright donation of those
Donations, stay
items.
here.
I've had people ask about the bricks, so we had talked about that at one time, making some of those decorative bricks available to the public.
What we, I believe, had talked about was trying to, at some point, use some of the materials to erect some type of a monument memorial to the use of the site. And my thought, but we've never really proceeded with it, was that we might ask our various arts organizations to have some type of a contest, to get some different ideas and designs. We'll have a lot of bricks, whether they're in a condition that people will want them, is an unknown. The bricks that are falling off of the smokestack, and I know Jeff's been down there with me, probably 99 out of 100, when they fall, break into lots of pieces. It's not like you find an intact brick every time you go in there. There are bricks that are intact, the smaller bricks that are actually on the exterior of the buildings. Those might be of interest to some people, but they're going to have to be cleaned up. We don't have the time or the resources to do that. They will be stacked. Our people will stack them on site for now. We've talked about and tried to make contact with several companies that actually purchase bricks and use them in restored buildings and stuff, with the idea that maybe we can get someone to buy in bulk a lot of them. It's possible, once we get these buildings down and we've got some time, that we could look at, was there a way to safely dispose of or offer some of these bricks to individuals. I will tell you, I did that in another life, and it was a madhouse, because we limited to 10 the number of bricks that people could have, and they were climbing the fence, and they were doing all kinds of things and telling us, I need 25 more because I'm building a barbecue, and it's an interesting thing. But I think our first priority has to be to get those buildings down safely and in a timetable that satisfies Mr. Houff. He does not have any problem with our storing various items on site for a while to stockpile. So I think if we can get the buildings down and we can put like all the bricks in one place and the wood in another place, then we can focus on, is there an opportunity for us to give them away, sell them for $5 a piece, whatever we want to do. But that's not been a priority in my mind.
And it's not a priority. I'm just asking. But what I don't want to happen is people think they can't get the bricks, and then they try to sneak down there and get them from around the smokestack where they've fallen. Because obviously people have been getting down there and taking what they want from.
Well, we've had some major, I call them thefts, of particularly copper and some other items.
That's one reason the guy that was willing to do the removal to begin with, he went back and looked at pictures of what was there compared to what pictures he had taken. a lot of stuff that was of value that was no longer there.
Well, and that's happening every day as we demolish, candidly. When Pat Harrison went down last week, he said there were some items that were no longer there, and they've probably been carted off to the recycle center. And we've indicated to Black Dog there's a sense of urgency to what we're doing. That's why they sent me today 11 photographs of the items that they wanted, asked us to set them aside. Most of them appear to be in one of what I call the newer buildings further back, not the building that the smokestack is encased in. And so we won't be going to that building right away, which will give some additional time. But they also want to get here as quickly as possible in order to do the filming.
You're selling the metal to the local metal place up here, or?
Somebody is bringing a big container, and we're filling the container up, and then they're coming and hauling it. I would be careful to not say exactly, because I'm not sure anymore. And we do have a gentleman who's come and said he would perhaps take some of the stuff inside those buildings to help us.